Oh, this is weird. So you guys are actually seeing what I'm seeing, but like with the camera flipped over. Okay, let me be serious for a second. I have a new story to tell y'all. You ready? All right, so let's recap. We know the three major tribes that we already learned about. The Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incas. But besides them, do you know what was actually really here? Huge armadillos, mammoths. I mean, I'm talking big animals that actually roamed all over Panama. Unfortunately, most of it got washed away until they started finding artifacts. So now we're starting to get crops into our fertile land. The biggest crop that we had was called cacao. Where did the cacao come from? It actually came from Mexico. Settlers started to come down to Panama, and little by little they started growing their own crops. Guess what that helped them with? Trade. Agriculture era? Sound familiar? But wait a minute. So now we're trading? Is it even called Panama yet? Does anybody have a name for this area? No, they actually called it Área Intermedia, which just basically means the area that's in the middle of. So now we're growing. We're growing big time in this area that still doesn't have a name. Here's a really important fact, something that I want you to listen very closely. Come here. We had a lot of gold. A huge amount of gold was actually found in Panama. Now more people are starting to settle in. So we have people starting to settle, we have cacao, we have animals. We're actually called La Ciudad de Pescadores because we're in a perfect spot. But how did the Spanish conquistadors get all the way over here? What were they looking for? In 1492, Columbus sailed the... Oh, well, this is not even called Panama yet. So that's not the story I'm looking for. Yes, in 1492, actually last week, 528 years ago, Columbus did sail the ocean blue, and he ended up here in Panama. But, what do we know about Christopher Columbus? Well, we know that he had to get his voyage funded from the King and Queen of Spain. We know he had 3 ships. Oh, if only I could remember their names. Do you know their names? Right. La Niña, La Pinta, y La Santa Maria. Like my Spanish? Okay, so anyway, let's get back to it. So he ends up here. He thinks he's in Asia. And because he actually finds out that there was a lot of gold. Not here in Asia, remember? Okay, well anyway, back to my story. He goes back to Spain and he tells the king and queen that he actually found land. And he found a little bit of gold. Here's the thing though. There's this guy named Vasco Núñez de Balboa. Ever heard of him? He's coming up, and he's super important. Fast forward to 1501. Christopher Columbus has already been here. He came back, and guess what? He got arrested. Not good for Mr. Sisi. All right, so where was I? Vasco Núñez de Balboa. So he arrives, and he actually arrives on the area of Colón. And these indigenous tribes did not want to give up their territory. I mean, they were there first. So one of the indigenous leaders actually tells Vasco Núñez de Balboa, psst, the indigenous tribes on the other side, Darién, are a little less aggressive. Try starting there. Go ahead. Are you still with me? Okay, good. We're in Darién. So he arrives and all he wants to do is conquer. He wants to become more powerful. He wants to conquer the land, conquer the tribes, conquer the gold. Gosh, this sounds really familiar from everything that we've learned so far about ancient civilization. One of the indigenous tribe members actually tells him, if you go down south, you're probably going to find a lot more gold. I don't know if it's because he didn't want him to be there, but he sent him off. He didn't find gold, though. Do you want to know what he did find? I'll give you a clue. The ocean. So now Vasco Núñez de Balboa is conquering. He's like, whoa! I actually found another ocean. His head is getting so big because he thinks he's just the head honcho. So he has to go back and tell everyone what he's actually found. But guess what he finds whenever he goes back to where he was originally? Yeah, another head honcho. Another guy who thinks he's in charge. Any guesses of what his name is? If you guessed Pedro Arias Davila, you were right. We also call him Pedrarias. We know that Balboa is super excited because he's kind of figured out that he's not in Asia. He is in a whole nother continent. But when he finally gets there, another guy thinks he's in charge. Pedrarias. Let me tell you a little bit about Pedrarias. He was not a very nice guy. And all he wanted to do was take over. The king and the queen actually sent him off with 20 other ships and over 1,000 people just to help Pedrarias conquer that piece of territory. So now there's the situation. Balboa arrives to see Pedrarias. How do you think Balboa feels? He went from going, oh my goodness, I just found the most amazing thing, to, oh my goodness, who are you and what do you want? Apparently Pedrarias was like, I don't care who you are. I'm the one in charge now. You do what I say. Lots of chaos is going on between these two, almost like a soap opera, but I'm not going to get into all of those details. Do you want to know how this story ends? Pedrarias kind of tells Balboa, you know what, why don't you go keep on discovering what you found down there while I'll keep this over here under control. Balboa isn't too happy because he knows he kind of has an idea of what Pedrarias is up to, but he goes anyway. And then while he's on his way, he tries to convince everyone who's with him to not listen to Pedrarias, to listen to him. They were huge tattletales, because guess what? All that got back into Pedrarias. I told y'all this was like a soap opera. Okay, so the information gets leaked to Pedrarias that Balboa is doing all of this, right? So he's like, I see. Okay, tell him to go to a place called Akla. I'll be waiting for him there. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So, we're now in this place, and this guy named Espinosa is actually waiting for him. Guess what he does? He literally cuts off his head. I told you guys, this was a pretty big story. So anyway, all of this is happening, and yet nobody really knows where they are yet. There's no name. Panama still doesn't exist. A lot of confusion of actually where they were. So how did everything happen? How did it all get established? Where was Panama Viejo during all of this? We'll get to that in the next class. Hope you enjoyed it. Ciao.